Introducing LT Defense Tactical Gear, your ultimate solution for top-notch protection and performance in the field. Our armor bundles provide unmatched safety and comfort, while our battle belts and holsters ensure quick and easy access to your gear. Stay prepared for any situation with our high-quality medical supplies, designed to keep you ready for action at all times. Looking to enhance your skills? Our firearms training programs will take your proficiency to the next level. Trust LT Defense for all your tactical gear needs and gear up for success on the battlefield.
Military Broadcast Radio, the station that's giving veterans a voice.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Think of all that time. Every wait in the winter. All those hours no one else. Think of all that time. Think of every sacrifice in the summer. Every wait in the mornings on the levee. Late nights in the film room. Bus rides to playoff games. Every bump in the road. Every moment of ecstasy. Every moment of doubt. Years wondering. Is it all worth it? It's all led to this. Man, I got this. It's a 60-minute drive for a 60-minute game. After all the miles we've traveled, we're almost there. After all the hours we've worked, one more can make us legends. After all that time, this is our time.
Opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Good knowing exactly where to go with the football.
All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome into Inside the Hoosier Mind, brought to you in part by Military Broadcast Radio, helping give veterans a voice and helping teach them how to podcast. I am back with the Chi Kid Mike Hughes because we have a little bit to talk about because it's the NFL offseason. As a result, we get all the crazy rumors, we get all the crazy trade scenarios, we get all the potential free agency rumors and whatnot, even though free agency doesn't happen until March. Nonetheless, though, Mike and I are here to talk about it. We're here to talk about, is Aaron Rodgers going to potentially end up in one of four cities? Maybe he ends up somewhere different. We obviously got to talk about Cooper Kupp on the trading block. Deebo Samuel has been granted permission to seek a trade. And we're going to talk a little bit of WNBA since we got the guy who helps talk about WNBA, at least on the Chicago Sky side. And who better to talk about WNBA and, of course, the phenomenal sensation that is here in Indiana other than Caitlin Clark. Mike, buddy, appreciate you being on, good sir.
I appreciate you, sir. I had to get my thoughts and my energy up. I just finished rewatching The Sopranos, and that ending just
Oh,
every time,
yeah.
brother. I'm pissed off for 2 to 3 business days. So I had to see The Luscious Beard. I had to see Inside the Hoosier Mind. Um, the only thing that's gonna suck about this is I have to listen to my own voice later on today when I rewatch it. But that's the
Hey,
only part that stinks.
hey, I know that feeling, buddy. Every time I'm like, I don't like
Can't
how, I
stand
don't
it.
like how that sounds. I don't like it. I don't
Just
like it.
can't
Part
stand
of
it.
part of me almost likes my dad voice a little bit better, and I know some people have a love-hate relationship with it.
Me, I'm people. I'm people.
I'm the people.
I'll be like,
But
what the hell?
oh, dude, I do it at work, and I notice there's a little bit off topic. I know some people, like some of the girls who have we'll call them parental issues, are big
Sure,
fans, and people who
sure.
don't have parental issues,
Uh,
not as big of fans.
I can understand that, but I'll also say that the ones with parental issues, they're just fans of everything. But it is what
That's
it is.
also true. That's also true.
Not always.
But nonetheless, though, let's dive into it. So, Mike and I, both being fans of Da Bears, know a
Mhm.
gentleman by the name of Aaron Rodgers all too well. Obviously, his last 2 seasons in New York have been an absolute dumpster fire. One, because it's New York, and two, because Aaron Rodgers is old and he got hurt. So, obviously, there's rumors. There's 4 places he could potentially go. All of them that I listen to have unique reasons for why he would end up going there.
Mhm.
One of them, obviously, he could pull a Brett Favre and he could go to Minnesota. There's talks that maybe they let Sam Darnold go. You let JJ kind of sit behind him, not having to rehab and nurse an injury and whatnot.
Yeah.
You
Finish the
not only
story.
finish the story exactly. It's almost like Cody Rhodes in here. See, this is why the NFL and WWE are like this, man. You got San Francisco, his childhood team, and the team that he was mad that overlooked him when they didn't draft him at their first round position and picked Alex Smith instead. You have Pittsburgh, who, why not? They already had another old washed QB that they tried to make work in Russell Wilson. Why not get another old washed quarterback?
Mhm.
And then, of course, the one that probably makes the most sense, because all honesty, he's going to have the most power, because I feel like this franchise is just in pure total desperation. Tennessee Titans. Mike, buddy, do any of these seem like realistic? Like you could see Rodgers going to any of these 4 places?
Well, out of love for our boy Jeezy out there in Memphis in the M, I'm gonna say that Tennessee is a beautiful place.
Yeah.
Tennessee has a lot to offer
Hmm.
from multiple culture standpoints. I mean, there's Memphis, who's a huge city, and then you're in
Yeah.
Tennessee, Knoxville. It's more country.
Hmm.
There's a lot to offer there, but when it comes to actually talking about the football team, I feel like the GM of the Titans will probably spend an hour and a half during their meeting talking about Tennessee, but not about the Titans, because
Right.
it's just not a great situation to go to. I don't see him ending his career there. With Calvin, is it Calvin Ridley still there? If I'm not mistaken, he'll be
I
returning. Maybe
I thought he
Treylon Burke.
left. No, I thought Ridley left to the Jags.
Is
No,
he-
no, no. He did he
I think he's currently on. I think I saw him at the beginning of the year. I was at the home opener. It was D
wait.
Hop, Calvin Ridley, and Treylon Burke, if I'm not mistaken.
I'll Google it just in case.
Well, I'll buy airtime while we find out if I'm capping or not. But I
It
think
might be me, honestly. It might be me. Oh no, he is
it
on the Titans currently. You're right. You're
okay,
right.
okay. Well,
He was traded to the Jags and then he went to the Titans. Okay.
it's on neither of us because just like his number, big fat 0 all the last couple of years.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
but it is what it is. But I don't think Tennessee's pretty legit. And I'm gonna sound very biased here, so I want everybody to look at me when I say it. I am biased, but I would rather extend Justin Fields and pay him less than what I pay Aaron Rodgers, presumably. I don't see
Mhm.
Fields commanding a lot of annual salary as it pertains to that. I don't see him making $20 million a year. So I
Right.
definitely do think that that's in the best interest to find a direction. They won games with Justin Fields. They went undefeated the first 3 weeks with Justin Fields.
Yeah.
I think they only what did they finish 4-2 with him?
2?
So
Yeah, 4 and 2. So I mean
something like
that's
that.
pretty good.
It's pretty good. It's almost double the amount of wins he had as a Bear. So you know what I mean? Like it's interesting to see what Pittsburgh could do. The other 2 were
Minnesota and San Francisco.
I like the idea of Minnesota more than San Francisco because I just think Rodgers is petty. I don't think he would ever give the 49ers a real shake just because they passed up on him. I've heard him say it before, back when he was in Green Bay, that he still does think about that every time they play each other, which is funny because every time they play each other, San Fran remembers why they didn't draft him.
Correct.
Correct. Shout out Robbie Gold.
Right.
But yeah, Minnesota makes a lot of sense to me. I just think from a general manager perspective, does it make drafting JJ McCarthy, 9th overall, kind of a bad decision? You know what I mean? Because if you're going to have him 2 years in a row not playing, you could make the argument, just like Aaron Rodgers, sit for a few years and then learn. Jordan Love, when did Jordan Love play? His second year?
His 4th year, actually. I mean, I think he's got to start games in between there, but he didn't become a full starter until his 4th season.
Okay, so then, there's a conversation for that, but I also I don't know. The way this team is constructed, they're in win now mode with that defense. So you definitely, it could work both ways, but it's also like a damned if you do, damned if you don't type situation. Because if you pay Rodgers all that money and then he's on the bench because of an injury and then JJ's hurt, and it's a whole thing. So I don't know. I would say Minnesota, and I know it's a long-winded answer, but I would say Minnesota.
No, I like it. So 3 of these. When I first heard this and I first heard all the cities brought up, so 3 of these 4, he's not going to have absolute power. In all honesty, at this point in his career, I don't know if that's still something that Rodgers wants, given that he was basically given an absolute power and authority with New York. Minnesota's not going to give it to him because, like you said, they have JJ. They drafted JJ for a reason. I did kind of like the idea that if they do sign him, let JJ kind of sit and learn, and that way he's not having to do it while he's rehabbing and nursing and whatnot. And if Rodgers does fail, you have a backup and a backup plan that you can roll with, and then you can get an evaluation of, okay, what does this kid look like since we drafted him 9th overall? What does this pertain to as far as our future goes? So I don't necessarily mind that. San Francisco was interesting because it was kind of the same thing almost with Brock Purdy. It was almost let's get the ball back in our court as far as negotiations go. Because honestly, if you look at Brock Purdy right now, he's probably going to make the argument that he deserves to be paid $55-60 million a year because, look at what Trevor Lawrence got. Look at what Jordan Love got. Look at what Dak got.
Jesus.
He's commanding that because that's the new market.
Sure.
And, has he really done enough to prove, especially in what was a down year because of all the injuries and whatnot, is he worth that kind of money? If you bring Aaron in, it's like, oh, look, either you can, or we're just going to hand it over to the old man and we'll go that direction if we have to. I don't know if they will, but it's possible. Pittsburgh, I mean, it's the Mike Tomlin show until said otherwise and whatnot. So I don't necessarily see Pittsburgh as a viable option. I kind of like what you said. I would almost go with Fields more. You went 4-2 with Fields. There's still obviously issues with the offense, and I don't know if a Aaron Rodgers and Arthur Smith-led offense is necessarily going to fix that. The other thing that's a potential that I'll tie in with Pittsburgh and Tennessee that I think could be a potential positive if he can recapture some of his magic is I think whoever signs Rodgers has, I'm going to guess, about a 70 to 80% chance to get Devontae as well. And so if it's Tennessee, that's an immediate upgrade to the wide receiver room, whether he's, up to, Devontae Adams prime or not. If it's Pittsburgh, I could kind of see it because think about that combination of George Pickens, Devontae Adams, and Pat Freiermuth. And then you have Najee Harris in the backfield. Not necessarily bad, but again, is it Aaron Rodgers that we saw in 2021 who won the MVP, or is it going to be 2022 Rodgers and beyond where we've seen him steadily decline in a pretty harsh manner? And obviously Pittsburgh continues to get bounced, 1 and out whenever the playoffs come around. So I think it's interesting. Obviously there's a few other cities that potentially rumored. I know here in Indianapolis is one that doesn't really make sense to me because I think why would you bring him in is when you've already kind of had issues with AR, when the Colts obviously have much other glaring issues that they need aside from just thinking it's a quarterback situation. So I don't think Indianapolis is one. Maybe the other team in New Jersey / New York, the Giants, maybe. But honestly, to me, it's like looking in a mirror because, again, you have a fairly decent defense. You have an offensive line that has a lot of holes that needs fixed. You don't have the running back game that you had with, Braylon Allen and Breece Hall. So you're kind of taking a downgrade at that. Now you do have Malik Neighbors, which is fantastic. But again, you only have one wide receiver and significantly less weapons. So it will be interesting to see what Aaron does, what he decides to do, where he decides to go. And obviously Mike and I are going to keep a huge eye on that because, again, we can appreciate Aaron as a quarterback, but part of me also kind of wants to see him fail because of what he used to do to the Bears all the time. And he's just kind of a narcissistic butt face. And
yeah, it's like when Thanos just like deteriorates into like ash and disappears. It's like, I just feel free, brother. And at what cost did it mean that the Bears didn't win the Super Bowl throughout my childhood? Yes, but we're free now, brother. That's all that matters.
Free of the nightmare. But we'll take one quick commercial break. When we come back, we will talk about some of the other big trades and some other potential destination moves and whatnot when we come back.
Tune in to Clado's Cacophony of Sound every Saturday night from 9 p.m. to 12 a.m. Eastern on Military Broadcast Radio at mbradio.us or on Twitch at DJ_Clado. MBR, giving veterans a voice.
All right, we are back to Inside the Hoosier Mind, brought to you in part by Military Broadcast Radio, helping give veterans a voice. I am back with the Chi Kid, talking about some NFL offseason news and some trade rumors and whatnot since the season is officially over. One of the teams that I actually finished talking about is going to be part of our next topic, the New York Giants, who have been a dumpster fire since like 2016, ever since that yacht photo with Odell. The Giants have been doo-doo, with the exception of like the 1 year Daniel Jones was like average and they went 10-6 and even won a road playoff game against Perk Thuggins in the Minnesota Vikings. The Giants have been an absolute dumpster fire of a mess. So obviously, for anybody who doesn't know, Malik Neighbors, star wide receiver from LSU, go Tigers, star breakout receiver for them, has been trying to recruit Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp, both from the Los Angeles Rams, to potentially come to New York. Now, it's already been announced that Los Angeles is going to trade Cooper Kupp. They already informed him and let him know. He's already put out a newsletter basically thanking the city of Los Angeles. He said that he would love to finish his time as a Ram. And they had already wanted to do this before. They wanted to do this before against the Minnesota Vikings game when they were kind of rolling on that hot streak with Sam Darnold. And then all of a sudden they beat the Vikings and they go, okay, hold on a minute. We won't necessarily, make this trade and make this happen yet. But now that the offseason's over, they honestly gave the Eagles probably the best run for their money with both of those guys in the lineup in the NFC wildcard game and whatnot. Now they're saying we want to trade him. Now there's a little bit of some theories on Matt Stafford. They haven't really come out and said that they want to trade him, but there's a lot of likelihood that he's going to be traded as well. Mike, there's going to be two parts to this question.
Sure.
One, do you think the Giants would be the best fit as far as upgrading them as far as wide receiver position? Because now you have Neighbors, now you have Kupp, you have Matt Stafford at quarterback. But on the other hand, if you're Los Angeles, is this really the time to make that move? Because you made not necessarily a deep run, but you're in the high 20s as far as draft picks go. So you're not going to get a first round talent quarterback unless you're really reaching for a guy, unless you think, heck, maybe Los Angeles is a potential place for Aaron Rodgers. Again, I would prefer to keep Matt Stafford if I'm them personally, but you never know. It's LA, it'd be California. He'd get to have his revenge against the 49ers. He's with an offensive coach and Sean McVay and whatnot. But for the Rams, is that really what you want to do? Because now it's like, man, you're kind of setting yourself up for failure. Because what do you have next as far as the future goes? You have Stetson Bennett on the roster.
I was gonna say, are you telling me that 37-year-old multi-champion Stetson Bennett isn't a good option right now?
No, not at least
37 years old in
professionally.
his second year, by the way. I just
Correct.
He's
Correct.
like what, 27, something like that.
He's older for a guy that's only been in the league
Yeah.
for a couple seasons. But yeah, what's your thoughts? Do you think this would be the right move for the Giants? And obviously, I know we talked about it. There's maybe a couple other places you would like to see Cooper Kupp go, if given the option. But your just initial thoughts right off the bat.
Yeah, sure. My initial thoughts right off the bat is the general manager of the Giants. And we saw him on Hard Knocks tell his son that Jaden Daniels wasn't going to be there. Obviously, he took one hell of a player in Malik Neighbors, but his son knew what he was talking about. Jaden Daniels ends up breaking hella rookie records. A Hail Mary against top Bears. Maybe if they would have went to the Giants, that wouldn't have happened, and the Bears would have went on to win 7 straight games. Who knows? But I think for me, it's just not in the cards right now for New York. And if I'm Malik Neighbors, I stop promoting old quarterbacks. Like, you want to grow, you want to learn. Take a page out of Garrett Wilson's book on how playing alongside Aaron Rodgers worked out for him. It's all it's all flowers and roses until you step in shit, and then it starts to stink up the joint, no matter how many meadows you're walking through. So that's my little quote for the day. But 3,762 passing yards, was 13th in the league last year, tied for 15th with 20 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. QBR 64.7 was 12th in the league as well. Matthew Stafford at recently age 37. His birthday was yesterday. Shout out.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Matthew Stafford. I wonder how his wife and him spent that. I'm not even going to touch that conversation. But
probably not as bad as Phillip Rivers. Let's put it that way.
Phillip be getting down. I don't know what you talking about.
I know that's why he's got a whole starting offensive line in his.
Yeah, that is Phillip's woman. Nobody else has ever gotten with Phillip's woman. It's Matthew. I don't know, but no, in all seriousness, man, again, it's kind of similar to our last conversation, which I love the transition, because it's like, it's just a bunch of old guys going to different places. Like, if this was 2016, I think this is a very different conversation with both of these guys being in the market. I don't even think Matthew Stafford would be traded. But at this point in time, with $23 million to the cap, in 2025, $26 million to the cap, he wouldn't be a free agent until 2027. And obviously $26 million in 2026. I don't know, man. I just don't think it fits. I like the idea of pairing him and Kupp up together because it worked. And obviously Cooper Kupp, when healthy, was triple crown. He was the guy, you know what I mean? He was having an MVP season. He was the one wide receiver that I do believe deserved an MVP in recent years, outside of maybe Jetta's. But I think it's really just going to come down to the price, because for me, I would ask myself this, Tony, if I'm you. Okay, so the price is a 3rd round pick for Cooper Kupp. That I can bear with. Even as a Bears fan, I take it a million times out of a million. We drafted Tyler Scott and Bayless Jones. Like, give me Cooper Kupp for a 3rd round pick. But what do you think the stock is for Matthew Stafford? Because now you're giving a 3rd round pick for Cooper Kupp. You're paying him the amount of money he's making. Now you're paying $23 million for Matthew Stafford, and let's say you give a 2nd or a 1st for Matthew Stafford. Like, you're giving up a lot of capital for one guy super injury prone and the other guy who is 37 years old.
Yeah, if it was me, I'll give up a 2nd and maybe like a 6th or a 7th. I'm not giving up a 1st. That he, like you said, if he wasn't 37, if he's maybe like 34, 33, like, right. I'm like, okay,
like when the Rams did
more
it,
realistic, right? Because it's like, okay, he's still got valuable years left. Like, we still at minimum got 3 to 4 years out of him. They won a Super Bowl with him when they got him, so they did what they were expected to do. At 37. Do I have you for a year? Do I have you for 2 years? Heck, even if I get you for 4, much like Aaron Rodgers, what's my quality of quarterback I'm getting, though? Because are you the Matt Stafford of, 2014, 2016? You're slinging, 5,000 yards, 40 touchdowns, and say, like, 9 picks.
Sure.
Or am I getting, this year's Stafford, like, hey, I can get about 3,100 yards, about 20 touchdowns, maybe about 10 picks or so out of me. And that's about as good as you're going to get. Now, I'm not going to doubt that he can't win you a game and he can't get you to the playoffs, which for the Giants case is something they haven't done, for the last few years. And Giants fans have really been yearning for heck, almost, 2 decades at this point, since Eli Manning has retired. to me, I wouldn't give up more than a second for Stafford.
Yeah.
You know, again, love him, grew up watching him for a long time.
Mhm.
He was one of the few bright spots in Detroit with Megatron. Like, I really do wish, even though I know you and I both like the Bears, that he and Megatron could have both won a ring together, even
Oh,
if it
yeah.
was in the city of Detroit, just because of what those dudes did.
Yeah. We
But
talked
yeah.
about it on ASAP a long time ago that I
Mhm.
wanted Megatron to come out of retirement and go
Yes.
play in LA and get a ring
Yes.
with Cooper Kupp and them. I thought that would have been amazing. Now, obviously, Megatron was dealing with the concussions and
Right.
Dancing with the Stars legend. So,
Mhm.
he was a little bit occupied. But no,
Right.
I'm with you. And I sound like I'm beating a dead horse, but we'll just change the topic. It fits just with the Steelers situation. Like,
Yeah.
if you told me, am I trading a second round pick and paying Stafford $23 million for the next 2 years each year, or
Mhm.
just getting Justin Fields on a relatively cheap deal? And you have Justin Fields, Cooper Kupp, Malik
Mhm.
Neighbors, Tracy, who I'm very high on Tracy as a running back. I mean, not just because I had him in fantasy, but he actually
Right.
was very productive for me. Definitely a step over Devin Singletary. But I do think if they were to get a Justin Fields, I definitely think that's a young product. That's somebody
Mhm.
who you believe can potentially become a Baker Mayfield type story. I'm not saying he's going to come out here and just become a franchise quarterback for the next 10 plus years, but we've seen how change of scenery can do so well for somebody. And I think Fields in New York, he's a fast kid. He's electrifying. I think it would work.
And think about too the then positive situation he would have with Dayball as a head coach,
Oh,
because
yeah.
Fields hasn't had an offensive coach since Nagy. Nagy obviously wasn't a huge fan.
Yeah, no.
Then he gets just a defensive guy in Flus.
Yeah.
Then he gets another defensive guy in Tomlin. And you look at what, and I'm not trying to compare Fields and Allen by no means, but you kind of look at the raw product that Josh Allen was when he first started, and
Mhm.
you can kind of see that's really what Justin was for a long time as far as a raw product. You could have a guy that has had success, success
Resume.
with that kind of guy before, as far as raw talent that's athletic with a big arm and can move.
Yeah.
The potential that he could have with Justin Fields in New York would be,
Right.
would be, off the charts if he could make it work. And I think that would be realistically possible with Dayball as his head coach.
I love it.
Another trade that we could talk about real quick before we get into our last topic of the night. Deebo Samuel has been granted a trade, permission to request and look for trades and whatnot. And we both kind of have interesting thoughts and theories as to where Deebo could go. I personally think he would be a good fit in Washington.
Mhm.
With scary Terry McLaurin on one side, you have to worry about double teaming him. When he's healthy and moving, Deebo is an all-around player that can do just about anything and everything. If they're able to keep Zach Ertz, I know you and I talked about it. You think he's only there for like a 1-year deal. I would assume they would probably re-sign him just because of the success that they had, and they honestly need a tight end.
Mhm.
Since what's the one kid? He used to play quarterback. He got hurt, but he was a great tight end for him for the last few years.
Taysom Hill.
Huh?
Talking about Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill.
No. He played on the Commanders. He was their tight end for
quarterback,
like
tight end.
last 3 years. He was originally quarterback and then he switched over to tight end.
Logan Thomas.
Logan Thomas. Yeah.
Logan Thomas.
So they haven't really had a tight end kind of that caliber since him until they got Ertz. So that, and then you have Roshan Johnson. No. Right.
Brian Robinson.
Brian Robinson. I got all of them confused all at once.
It was the
Brian
sex
Robinson
comment.
in
It
the
just threw you
background.
through a loop. That's what it was.
I know. It really was. And then you have Brian Robinson in the backfield too. I mean, that's a fairly potent Commanders offense with Jaden Daniels at the helm, who we're gonna predict is only gonna get better as the season goes on.
Mhm.
So my pick for Deebo would be Washington. Do you agree, or do you have kind of a different spot you think he would go to?
You know where.
Dow Bears.
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 I'm going with the Bears. And I think I'm going with the Bears for the simple idea because I'm delusional. But in all seriousness, I think when you go for the saying, the best ability is availability, you have to look at who is the best when they are available. Because when you have a situation right now in this wide receiver class of guys who are going to be on the block or going to be free agents, if I'm the Chicago Bears and I say I have DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, who's doing a damn good job, a fine good job recruiting right now. And then obviously Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen is going to be the big piece to me to see what happens with the Bears moving forward. Now, all of them are going to get hurt at one point or another. Deebo Samuel, Cooper Kupp, and Keenan Allen. The question isn't when or if they're going to get hurt. It's how productive are they going to be when they are on the field. For me, Deebo Samuel would be that guy for the Chicago Bears, to where the offensive line, as much as I would love to say that everything gets fixed throughout this offseason, it's just not. I think they could add a nice guard. I think they could add a tackle throughout free agency in the draft. But to me, there's still no center that is just going to magically, a proven veteran center that's going to fall into the lap of the Chicago Bears. It's just not going to happen this offseason in my eyes. So for me, bringing in a Deebo Samuel, that's your safety blanket. That's where you can have Rome Odunze over the top. DJ, do whatever you got to do. And then Deebo, you're our X factor. You're the guy we want to do a little bit of everything. Now, does he want to do that? I don't know. If that's the question, and the question is, I just want to be a wide receiver again, I think you start looking at teams like Baltimore, and that's another guy for Cooper Kupp, where Baltimore is a big one with obviously Hollywood Brown leaves, Zay Flowers takes over. To me, man, if Zay Flowers doesn't go down right before the playoffs, Lamar and the Ravens were really on a roll. And Rashad Bateman, as much as I love him, every now and again, the man is a fantasy legend. And then other times it's just not there. So I think if you bring in a Deebo Samuel mixed up with a Derrick Henry and a Lamar Jackson, I mean, Tony, this is literally just Madden with the salary cap off. Like we got trades off. We got everything going. It's a legacy team for sure. Like what's the best you're going to get out of those guys moving forward? But Deebo, Lamar, so biased opinion is going to be Bears. But I wouldn't count out the Baltimore Ravens quite yet on any of these wide receivers that are available.
That's true. And I noticed you forgot Mark Andrews because Butterfingers and whatnot.
Fuck that guy. No, I sold my parlay. Get him out of here.
But we're going to take one quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll talk about our last topic, and that is Caitlin Clark and the WNBA, since the Chi Kid is on, and that's his specialty and whatnot. So we'll take a quick break, and when we come back.
Department of Veterans Affairs. For PSAs on the best services available to veterans, go to VA's new radio outreach page, news.va.gov/outreach/radio.
All right, we are back with Inside the Hoosier Mind, brought to you in part by Military Broadcast Radio, here with the Chi Kid to talk about our last topic, the WNBA and Caitlin Clark. So, buddy, I'm going to be honest. I heard this the other day as I was coming into work on the radio. They were talking about Caitlin Clark, and I kind of watched it a little bit when I first started watching the WNBA last season. Obviously, Caitlin came in with a ton of popularity, a ton of notoriety because of all the success that she had at Iowa, all the storylines that were in women's college basketball prior to that, with Iowa kind of being the underdog carried by Caitlin Clark. You had the big bad bully that is my LSU Tigers that everybody hated and wanted to see fall. They win a national title with your girl Angel Reese at the helm against Caitlin and whatnot. Then they repeat. They go back to the national championship only to get demolished by the juggernaut that is South Carolina's women's basketball team. And your other girl that also came to the Chicago Sky, I don't remember her name. I'm bad with names. Exactly. So
got a couple of champs in the building.
Just a couple of champs. But nonetheless, though, there's a lot of hate on Caitlin Clark as a result of that. She got a lot of, I'm going to kind of say like bullying. She got a lot of like the crap kicked out of her as she was on the court there. She was getting hit a lot. And it seems like there's a lot of people aren't a fan of Caitlin. And even on the radio, they pointed it out, they might call it for what it is. It's because she's white and she came in with all of this, and maybe other players felt that they deserved it more than she did. I don't know the other players, and I didn't watch them to be able to make an accurate judgment of that. But I will say, at least at first, she was not doing great. After the WNBA's All-Star break, she completely flipped the script, and then she went on an absolute tear, ended up winning Rookie of the Year and whatnot. Do you think Caitlin turned down at least the NBA's 3-point contest purely because she felt that, okay, if I do this, people are going to argue that I didn't deserve it, that I'm only getting it for the notoriety, that she's more associated with the NBA than she is with the WNBA. And maybe she's trying to save a little bit of face with her fellow women cohorts in the WNBA.
No, not at all. I think especially because Sabrina Ionescu already did it the year prior, and Sabrina is beloved by so many people throughout the league. I would also, just to make a quick point too, working in the league, I don't find a lot of people, Angel Reese, Camila Cardoso included, and maybe I can't speak for them, but from what I've seen from them, I don't think any of them hate her. Now there are people who definitely, like Cheryl Swoops is very vocal about, kind of just knocking Caitlyn for the littlest of things. Like Caitlyn isn't the hottest thing since pants with pockets, like she has the WNBA viewership in a chokehold because of her. And I'll never deny that. Like Caitlyn has been phenomenal. And like you said, that second half was amazing. But for me, I think, again, one of two things. I think one, the money wasn't there. Caitlyn understands her market. Caitlyn understands how much she's worth and what that viewership would be, especially if kind of the way we predicted it was going to go was Clay and Curry versus Sabrina and Caitlyn. I as interesting as that is, I just think it either came down to the money, or two, Caitlyn probably said, well, we did it your way last year. You guys come to the WNBA All-Star game. Why should the NBA benefit and reap the benefits of the WNBA when they've done nothing to support it? Now, the players have supported the WNBA for years, but the NBA hasn't supported the WNBA whatsoever. In fact, I would think they even go out of their way to kind of ignore it, especially like Ice Cube's Big Three League. They don't like competition. The league doesn't like competition. That's just what it is. So I think Caitlyn kind of sees it as, now you guys come to me. I'm the one you guys want to play with, and then let's do it. So I think that's really where it is. I would say Caitlyn really doesn't give a fuck what anybody thinks about her, if I'm going to be completely honest. And I like that about her, because it's like you've never heard her make a statement or say anything that indicates she's a bad person or doesn't care for others. I think Caitlyn is just locked in on playing basketball, and where I would say men and people like us in radio credit those of a Kobe Bryant who just focuses on his game, then people are going to go on the same side of things, going to say that Caitlin Clark is jealous or this or that. Like, I just think the consistency just isn't there. And I think she's just playing the game she wants to play.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think she's kind of taking the right approach of, look, I'm here to hoop. I'm not trying to do all the extra stuff. If I get acknowledged, if I win awards, cool. It's not because of the popularity. It's not because of that. It's purely because of the skill and my ability to play the game and whatnot. But nonetheless, buddy, that is the end of the show. I appreciate you being on with me. It was fun as always. Hope everybody enjoyed. If you want to learn more, you can check out Mike on all of his social medias at the Chi Kid. You can catch him pretty much everywhere. You can catch me on Inside the Hoosier Mind, as well as all of the links above on Military Broadcast Radio to learn more about them, learn more about what you could potentially do to help out veterans and whatnot, help give them a voice. But other than that, we will see y'all later. Everybody have a great night.
Ladies and gentlemen,